Trigger warning, this podcast contains mature themes and discussions of cults, manipulation, and trauma. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Cultimatum, the culture of cults and human trafficking, where we expose the dark side of control, manipulation, and the human stories behind them. I'm Anonymous Andrew, executive producer and investigator into cult dynamics and coercive control.
And I'm Melody, a cult survivor and advocate for awareness and healing.
This is Cultimatum. Greetings and welcome back to another episode of the Cultimatum podcast, a culture of cults and human trafficking. And my name is Anonymous Andrew. And with me tonight is my co-host, Melody. Melody, who do we have on the show tonight?
Tonight, Andrew, we are joined by Kyle Humiston, a social media creator who breaks down MLM tactics, red flags to watch for, and how to shut down a pitch with confidence. He also explains how MLMs use cult-like tactics. Kyle and his wife spent 7 years in an MLM and reached the top 1%, giving him firsthand insight on both the benefits and the heavy personal cost. He shares what they learned, what they sacrificed, and the toll that it took on their lives, and why they decided to walk away. Kyle, welcome to Cultimatum.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, welcome, Kyle. The MLM world is becoming more and more prevalent, and we are covering it more and more. And I'm glad you're here. I think a lot of people don't understand MLMs. So one of the first things I might ask you is to explain what that really means and why it falls under the cult umbrella. If you can explain that. Yeah, let's start there.
Yeah, absolutely. So MLM is just short for, there's an acronym, if you will, for multi-level marketing, it's got many names these days: network marketing. Some people call it affiliate marketing, relational marketing, referral marketing. I mean, the list goes on. But ultimately, what it is a form of marketing where you get started in said business to sell products. Company has certain kind of products that they want sold, that they do not want to go through traditional avenues of sales and marketing. So they won't do billboards, they won't do commercials, they won't do store shelves. What they will do is they will pay their reps to sell said products and get commissions off that product. It's a direct sales, right? But the MLM companies take it a step further than regular traditional direct sales companies do, where they not only give you a commission on the products you're selling, but they will also give you a commission on anybody that you can bring in, the products that they're selling. So say you get started in an MLM and you get 3 of your buddies to join with you, all the products that your 3 buddies sell, you get a commission on. But then that chain kind of continues on down, turtles all the way down, if you're familiar with the phrase, where your 3 buddies, if they get 3 people in, then all of you are going to get a cut on those commissions. And if all those 9 guys, I guess, if you will, or 9 people, if they get 3 people in, and I think you understand what I'm saying here, it just goes all the way down, and you're supposed to get a commission on all of that. That's kind of a MLM in 60 seconds.
Supposed to. So I'm going to put that
Correct.
air in quotes, because now I just heard like 3, 6, 9 people might make commissions on one item. How does the top management make their, it sounds like all that money's going out to commission, but obviously it doesn't.
Yeah, so it does, but not in a fair amount, right? So the products that I will venture to say the products that every MLM sells they are vastly overpriced, like significantly overpriced compared to their products,
Yep.
Similar products in the market, and that's because so much of the markup has to go to all of those reps. Now, the reason it still sounds kind of suspicious, even when you have all those people that need to get paid, is because a lot of times these multi-level marketing companies will have certain quotas that you have to personally fulfill in order to even get your commission. So a lot of times people don't actually make these quotas, and the money kind of just gets passed over them to the next person above them that is qualified to get paid, if that makes sense.
It makes sense, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Can you give us a typical MLM that's functioning in the United States right now that somebody might recognize?
I can give you, absolutely, a couple people some that people might recognize off the top of my head: Amway, Mary Kay, Arbonne, Herbalife. Those are the first ones. Those
Okay.
are the big ones I think that people would recognize. There's a bunch. I can name a bunch more, but as far as
Yeah, no, that's a
recognition, yeah.
well, I think
I
we're
have a
familiar
quick
with.
question. Would you say the way the pay structure is, do you ever use the term pyramid? Like the way the pay structure is set up? Do they use it, and or
No, they
would
know. Oh
you
no,
would you
they
use it?
never will.
Okay,
They
they
never
never will.
will because of the negative. No, and because of the negative connotations. Obviously, I don't, but that's not necessarily because I wouldn't. I guess I was trained for so long not to, and people usually get the point when I say MLM or network marketing. They kind of know it's a pyramid, but those MLMs will never call themselves a pyramid because again, because of the negative connotation and because of the negative history attached
Yeah,
to that word, those
that
words.
makes sense.
Amway has been around as long as I can remember. So I'm once again,
1959.
okay. I'm all right. So there you go. I'm in my 60s, and I was born in 1960. So I remember my mom getting knocks on the door. I don't know, when I was 9, 10, 11, 12, and these women would come in and sit down, and I don't remember exactly, but I think they had suitcases or they had these little things and they would open up. Those were MLMs back then, or has that over the years transformed into what it is today?
No, so to answer your first question, so it's always been the same. The structure has always been the same. The pay structure, the MLM structure has always been the same since Amway's inception. There was actually a company before him. Since I've gotten out of MLM 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, I've done a lot of studying and a lot of research on how these companies operate. And Amway was actually it had a predecessor that Amway kind of absorbed once it became big enough. But nonetheless, the short answer to your question is it's always been the same. It's always been the same structure.
Can we go
Okay.
back to the question
I-
that Andrew asked initially about explaining how and why it has a cult mentality to it, or a cult like structure?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that there's a lot of similarities. The biggest one I would say is the encapsulation and the putting people in this bubble and that huge us versus them mentality. So in cults and especially in MLMs, a lot of the rhetoric is we know something special that everybody else doesn't know. And because you're a part of this group, we're going to share this knowledge with you and teach you how to be successful and teach you how to be free and teach you how to be the best person you can be because we have this knowledge that everybody else outside of this bubble, outside of this company, they don't have access to this. Right. And they build this holier than thou type of mentality within the participants to make every participant within the MLM think that they're better than the average person, right? And a lot of cults do that too. Something else, like a lot of cults, they will make their constituents think that they're better than the average person because they're a part of this cult. That's why they go out and try to get people to join the cult, is because they want, if I were a cult member, I think I'm better than you because of my cult and because of what I know. I want to go get you in because I'm trying to help you.
Right. So take an example of Jehovah's Witnesses. They know
Bingo.
that the world's coming to an end. So I'm part of this special club that's going to be saved when the world comes to an end, and you're not because
Exactly.
you're worldly or you're whatever. Okay. Perfect example. Okay.
Exactly. So
So
then MLMs do the same thing. They have their marketing structure and what they do is once they get people in, dare I say, deep enough, they will transition from just being business coaches and marketing coaches to try to take over a role as life coaches in every category. They will teach you how to, well, they will say they're teaching you how to have better relationships, romantic relationships and business partnerships and friendships and what people you should talk to, what people you shouldn't talk to, what jobs you should take, what jobs you shouldn't take. Should you move? Is it right for you to go on vacation? And these are all things that happen very subtly. Nobody with I would venture to say nobody with a working brain is going to sign up for any company and then let their boss, if you will, start telling them how to live their life.
having said that, what initially attracted you or pulled you in to this community? I'm going to call it a community, I guess. And what was it that got you involved?
Yeah, great question. So I initially got started and introduced to the MLM world when I was 19. And what really pulled me in was the person who introduced me to the whole world. I had not known previously. We met kind of out and about, if you will, out at a McDonald's. And that's one of the big ways that they actually get people into the MLMs is, and Jehovah's Witness, they go door to door. People in MLMs, they'll just start conversations with strangers at any store. Nonetheless, I got started, or I got approached by a guy at McDonald's once upon a time when I was 19. He told me he ran a couple businesses. He was looking for some sharp guys to start teaching and training on how to run their own businesses. Again, like I've said a few times already, I was 19. I was, for lack of a better term, starstruck. I was like, oh, this guy runs a business. And granted, he was only maybe 23 or 24, but when you're 19, a 23, 24-year-old may as well be
Especially
33 or 34.
especially how he's dressed and the fact that
Exactly.
he approaches you and picked you out of the crowd.
There you go.
And yeah, I can see that.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So he told me I'm sharp. He was feeding my ego, said you'd be a great person to chat with. And he he brought me to my first Amway meeting, my first MLM meeting.
What was that like?
To my recollection, I mean, this is now almost 15 years ago, but I remember loving it, to be honest with you. Ignorance is bliss. And I walked in and there were all these well-dressed men that were a little bit old. All of them were in their mid-20s, I'd say, which again, me being 19, I was really attracted to that. They were all dressed sharp. They were all very happy. There was a high energy, a very positive environment, a positive atmosphere. People were complimenting each other. They were giving high fives. They were just it was in a very electric, it was an electric environment, uh, to say the least. And I know why after the fact and hindsight why it's like that. But again, being brand new to the environment, having no idea what I was walking into, just seeing all these guys talk about business and talk about passive income was a buzzword, and not working a job the rest of their life, stuff like that was very, very appealing to me.
If you told me at 19 that I didn't have to work the rest of my life and I was surrounded by men 5, 6, 7 years older than me, all dressed nicely probably in some nice hotel somewhere. I guess they would have these in these convention centers or hotels.
Correct. Yeah. Hotel ballroom. Yeah.
They are done very nicely. So it looks plush or plosh or whatever the word is, and posh. And let me ask you, what's one or two major products that Amway sells?
Amway, initially it started with its cleaning products, and I would say that that's still probably its top two most
Ho-
popular and
House
profitable
cleaning,
lines.
house cleaning.
Yeah, so any cleaning, all
Okay,
cleaning,
okay.
it's laundry, dish soap, bathroom cleaner, everything, all kinds of household cleaning products. And then I would say their nutrition line is probably vitamins and protein powders and energy drinks and protein bars, stuff like that.
When they bring men on board like you, do they expect you to? I don't know. Are they grooming you to be a salesperson, and you're going to go out and sell cleaning goods, or they're going to train you to sell the nutritional part of it? I'm asking because they seem to groom the men for what? To sell what?
Well, if you want me to be honest with you, I will say they don't. At least the Amway's huge, and there's smaller organizations within it all over the world. Really, the organization I was a part of didn't really. I wouldn't say they groomed us towards any specific product line. They allowed. I say allow. It's kind of ironic. They allowed people to pursue any product line they wanted. Now, what I will say though is that the big reason they didn't press too hard on what product line I guess you should push is because they were more interested in you bringing more people in, and that's what
Oh,
they really
okay.
emphasized. So they let you pick whatever, and you can sell whatever you wanted.
And the truth
Fun
is
fact,
that's
if you
because
will.
that's where the money really is, correct?
Yeah, at the end of the
It
day, of
is the
course,
people.
exactly.
It's the people.
Yes, yeah. So one of the arguments that somebody in an MLM, especially Amway, will tell you is that they don't get paid off recruiting. They don't get paid off somebody signing up, and that's true. There's no if Andrew, if I were on Amway and you signed up underneath me, I would not get paid off your registration costs or anything like that. So that's their big argument, and their deflection point is, oh, well, you know, it's not about recruiting because I don't care if you get started. We don't get paid off that. But at the end of the day, what I do, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, I am going to get paid off all the products that go through you, right? So obviously, I want to get more people started because more people means they're moving more products that I can get paid off of.
So, Kyle, did you have any friends or family that kind of saw this for what it was and tried to tell you or tried to wake you up, so to speak? And how was that handled? Were you told to distance yourself from them? How was that? How were you told to handle that?
Yes. So the first answer is yes. Plenty of people try to, and I've matured and I've grown up since then. But when I was 19, you couldn't tell me what to do. You couldn't tell me, oh, that's not gonna work for you, and you shouldn't do that. It made me, I had, and I guess I still have this type of personality. I learned how to use it to my advantage. But back then, I was like, I'm gonna do what I want, and you're not gonna convince me otherwise. I've met all these people over here. They say that they're winning. Come to find out, they weren't winning at the level they said they were. But they say they're making all this money. They say all this is possible. I've seen them. I've seen some of the cars. I've seen some of the houses. Like, you can't convince me it doesn't work because I've seen it. Right. And so I did have a good amount of family, quite a few friends try to tell me, like, look, that's not, you know, can coincidentally enough, I never had anybody really come out and tell me that it was a cult.
Right.
Most people just use that, pyramid scheme and or nobody makes money in those things. And so those two arguments I just didn't accept. Now,
So,
how it was taught to handle, go ahead.
oh, that leads me to another question. Then go ahead and answer that because and then I'll ask my other question because I do want to. I don't want to interrupt your thought process here.
Yeah, so how we were taught to handle that, I don't know if give them credit is the right way to say this, but cult leaders and leaders of influence, they know how to do things without doing them. So let me say that a better way. I was never told outright and straightforward, hey, you shouldn't talk to people who say negative things about what we're doing. I was never told to, hey, cut off your friends and family who don't support you. Right. But those kinds of things were talked about, if that makes sense. So it was kind of conversations that were had like that throughout the organization. People would mention it when they were talking on stage. The culture kind of influenced and emphasized that, but it was never directly said, hey,
It
do
was
this.
implied.
Implied. Thank you. Is
Yeah.
a great word. Exactly. It was implied heavily, but never directed. And so
Okay,
I did to an extent. I didn't cut people off, but I definitely distanced myself from people who were,
so
quote,
that leads me to
negative
another
about what I was
question.
doing.
Did you possibly stay longer than you maybe would have, almost just to prove some of those people wrong because you didn't because you wanted to?
100%.
Uh, wow, that's hard.
100%.
That's
Well,
hard.
and what makes it even worse is that, so my wife was in this with me the whole time, and we reached a level of success that most people don't. And I don't say that to brag. I say that as matter of fact. It was actually to my detriment. It was to our detriment because I truly believe that had we not reached the levels of success that we did, we would have seen it for what it was sooner. But once you reach certain levels, it was almost like you get a taste, if you will, of like, oh, wow, this actually can work. And so once you get that, it's like blood in the water, right? For
Mm,
sharks,
yeah.
you get that taste and you're like, oh, it's actually a thing. And now we never, without trying to break down the entire compensation plan, we reached a certain level and we never got past that level. And we reached that level very fast. And then that was kind of like dangling in front of us the whole time that we were there. So again, to reiterate, had we not reached that level of success, and I say success loosely, I don't think we would have lasted as long as we did.
Just to clarify, you did reach a certain level. Was that like a comfortable level? Were you living a nice lifestyle or modest?
Negative. The income was see what they do. Again, they're clever in their ways. You get compensated mainly through recognition and flattery than you do monetarily. And we reached a level where we were speaking on stage to thousands of people, and we were speaking hundreds of people, thousands of people, different events all the time. We were on stage talking. People were asking us for advice, which is obviously feeds the ego of, some young 24, 25-year-olds. And we lived off that, right? While not honestly really making any money.
Where were you living at this time?
We were in the Chicago suburbs.
I just was wondering, I mean, if you don't want to share a number, we absolutely understand, but I'm guessing that you invested a lot of money into this because that's usually what ends up happening, and or you end up in a lot of debt. How did that look for you financially by the time you left?
Yeah, so and that's a great question too when we're talking about cults and their similarities to MLMs. Obviously, lots of cults like Scientology for one, or I know for a fact Scientology is one that drains the bank accounts of their members. I'm sure many other ones do. Yeah, it was not. We would more or less break even when it came to. So you're expected to buy a certain amount of products every month. Again, this is not something that's and not something that's mandatory, but it is something that is expected and encouraged. So you're expected to buy a certain amount of products every month, and the products aren't cheap, like I mentioned. So the amount that we were getting paid was pretty much covering the amount of products we had to buy every month. That being said, they're called business support materials. There's education tools, they call them. So conferences and books and podcasts and things of that nature that you are also expected to buy. That didn't we weren't covering that. So we were essentially going backwards, not by a huge amount, but backwards is still backwards no matter how you look at it.
I can imagine your garage was filled with Amway products. Is that?
Oh, at the time we were living in an apartment, but yes.
Yes.
Yes, lots of them. Yes. Yes.
So if
Maybe
you were not even fully breaking even and you were in the top 1%, I mean, what does that say for the people underneath you?
yeah, so this is something that I
Good
preach
question.
and echo a lot. It is what I try to get across to so many people that are still involved in Amway, so many of my once upon a time friends that are still around. It's something that I realized it was this concept that it's a great question, honestly. That concept was the first domino to me realizing what I was a part of. And it was that it's all smoke and mirrors. It's one giant house of cards. It's not real. It's fake. And so many of the leaders, because exactly like you said, if we, my wife and I, were at the top of the bonus chart, and we weren't making as much money as they at Amway meetings, they would tell you reach the top of the bonus chart and you should expect about $50,000 a year is what they would say back then. I don't know what they say now. It's been a couple of years. So if I'm at the top of the bonus chart and I'm making about $50,000 less than that, and I'm there for 5, 6, 7 years, what is everybody else that's at this level making? And then you get behind the scenes and I realize this guy is doing the same thing and that couple is doing the same thing. And I just kind of come to this realization, like, this is all a fake. It's fictitious.
And at the same time, they expect you to still go out and recruit.
And yes, they expect you to go out and recruit, and they expect you to act as though
You're doing
you're
well.
winning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Oh, sure.
Right. Which takes a toll on your mental health, I'm sure.
Yeah, because it's like a double life. It's like, wait a second, I'm supposed to tell these people I'm winning, and I know I'm not.
You have to go out and gaslight. You have to go out and lie to potential people that you're doing well. Look how well I'm doing, and come with me, and you can do as well as I'm doing. In the meantime, you're not doing well.
Correct.
And you're lying to somebody who you know deep down inside you're going to suck them into. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Now I can see how deep how psychologically this can get really.
And when you're in it, when you're doing it, like so we were never. You said we were lying, and I would say lying by omission. I never told somebody, "Hey, I'm making tons of money, and I'm going to teach you how to make tons of money too." But it would be like, "Hey, I'm at this level. I can teach you how to get to this level." Leaving out the part that, like, "Hey, at this level, you're probably not going to make much money," right?
They train you how to do this.
Yes, and they lead you to believe, they get this ingrained in you, right? That it's temporary and it's not going to last forever and blah blah blah. And at the end of the day, I mean,
Now, while you're doing all this, this is your only job, or do you have
No, no,
another
no.
job?
I was working full time. My wife and I were both working full time.
So you go work full time, and I don't even know. We didn't even get to the part whether you have kids or not. Do you then have to come home and go do this other gig to
Yeah.
go to meetings and go recruit? I cannot. I can only imagine.
Yeah, I can
So
tell you guys have done this before. I mean, that's another great point, right? Something that people don't think of. This is something else that I try to highlight, right? So the people that were most of the people in Amway, they don't have that don't have jobs. They call themselves free. They're retired young, retired early, whatever. But a large majority of them, what they do is they just don't work a full-time job. They just work a full-time Amway job, right? So maybe they're making real income from Amway. Maybe they're making 50, 60, 100, $200,000 a year, sure. But every night they're driving to meet from 5 p.m. to midnight. They're driving to meetings and they're signing people up and they're trying to get people in and they're trying to get people to buy products and they're going to different conferences to speak and their nights and weekends aren't their own because they're out there working an Amway job. And to your point, people who work full-time jobs like my wife and I did are also doing that same thing while not getting the same income, right? It was like having a second and third, I guess, full-time job.
I'm gonna skip just a little ahead to a question that I think I did ask one of our guests on the last who came on, but I'm gonna ask you. So you said Amway started in 1959, and let's just say the first 20, 30 years they were innocent. Let's just say that they were new on the scene. I don't remember anything negative about them except at some point I think kids started teasing other kids, "Oh, your mom's an Amway salesman," but that was later, like in the 1980s or something. What point does the Federal Trade Commission or the uh, any of the government levels look at this and say, "This is at this point in 2025." So you said 1960, so 65 years they have been around, and I is there enough evidence that this is a sham that can be
Yeah,
taken
so
down?
a great question also. So in the late 70s, it might have been 79, 78. The FTC actually so Amway was taken to court over pyramid scheme allegations because pyramid schemes were illegal at the time. They still are, but they were at that point illegal. And they were taken to court over pyramid scheme allegations and avoiding the minutia of the court case. The FTC ruled that they were a legitimate direct sales company, and that was because of they have and I'm going to use quotes air quotes again here. They have a rule that in order to get any kind of commission and to get paid, you have to sell a certain amount of products. You have to sell to customers. You have to sell a certain amount of products directly to customers in order to earn any kind of commission. And that was kind of their sidestep, if you will, from getting caught as a pyramid scheme. Because other pyramid schemes, there was no customer requirement, right? Now, I will say there are plenty of people who know how to get around that rule because Amway doesn't have a legitimate way to verify customers versus distributors. For example, Andrew, if you were an Amway rep, you could and you needed to sell, say, $200 of customer sales every month, you could just buy $200 of products, tell Amway, "Hey, I sold this to my neighbor," and they just oh, sounds good. Now that's an oversimplification, but that's what tons of people do. They'll buy the products and say, "Oh, I sold this to my neighbor," and
Right.
that's
As long as
that's
you have
taken.
the receipt and
Correct.
the cash or the payment.
Yep.
Interesting.
So that's how they've kind of gotten away with it.
We'll be right back after a quick break.
Don't go anywhere. More Cultimatum is coming up.
If you were to think of Amway, think of the NFL, right? National Football League, it's a sport. It's in a big entity within the National Football League. There are different teams. Each team does things a little bit differently, but their overall goal is to play football. Well, if you NFL is to Amway, there are different organizations called approved providers that teach people how to essentially play the sport of Amway, right? So there are different organizations within that are like considered they call themselves teams. They're just other businesses. And those are the companies that sell books, podcasts, conference tickets, all kinds of stuff. And the bigger problem, not the biggest, but a bigger problem than just Amway having a not so good customer rule is that people at higher levels in those companies get commissions and get paid off of people in their downline, people underneath them, buying the books and buying the conference tickets and buying the podcasts. And the reason that's a big issue, aside from just, ethically, a lot of people in Amway, their big argument, right, for, well, we're not a pyramid scheme because we sell products to customers, right? That's what the FTC said. Well, we sell products to customers. We're not a pyramid scheme. So that's fine. The weak argument of that aside, when you look at these approved providers underneath the Amway umbrella that are paying their leaders off of books and conferences and podcasts, well, the big question is, who's the customer? Where's the customer in that organization? Because they're not selling conference tickets to customers. They're selling conference tickets to Amway reps. They're not selling books to customers. They're selling books to Amway reps. They're not selling podcasts. Do you get what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
Yes.
That is like the Amway is the legitimate umbrella that covers up the internal consumption pyramid of business training.
I'm going to circle back to law enforcement. So back in 1980, you said that they brought them in and they did whatever they did. But that was 40 years ago. One name keeps popping into my head, and I just want to say it because it was news. Bernie Madoff, right? So he did a pyramid scheme, right?
Ponzi, yeah.
Ponzi scheme, right? Which I guess was the same type of MLM kind of a thing, where except that he took the money from the people to make more money that the person down below was never going to ever see again. Is that pyramid scheme kind of what Amway does?
No.
Different.
So
It's different.
It's so similar. It might as well be semantics. But if you want to get into the actual detail of it, it is different by definition.
Okay, no, we don't have to get into that. But it just because that was it was such a big national news thing, but it's already I think 10, 15 years old already. Okay, so let's fast forward. So where does you and your wife and you decide that this is not for us? At some point, you must have. Who came to who first?
Was there a specific incident that caused cognitive dissonance or something? Where was your breaking point?
Yeah, so it was definitely a me thing, although my wife did not push or fight me on it at all. Once I came to her, she saw exactly what I saw. So the simplest way to explain it is that there was a month where, it's just with you guys not knowing how the compensation plan works, it's harder to explain. So I'm trying to think of the easiest way to explain it. So there was a month where my wife and I, our team was not going to hit the sales goal that we said we were going to hit. It was not going to happen. Things just weren't working out the way we thought they would. Now, the reason for us that wasn't going to do anything, we were in a position where that month didn't really mean anything for our income, right? Or lack thereof. The people that we were sponsored by, however, we were kind of the missing piece to a $100,000 bonus puzzle that they needed. And so if we didn't hit our sales goal as a team that month, they were going to miss out on their $100,000 plus bonus, essentially. And so there lies the issue, right? Our organization was the missing volume piece to them getting that. And that was not, us not hitting that goal was not okay with, they were not okay with that. We'll say it like that. And so a conversation was had, and they basically gently but effectively convinced us to ask some people on our team and our organization to buy next month's products this month and front load, right? And we put up a fight at first and said, hey, we're not, we don't want to do that. which is it's something we had done in the past, and we didn't feel super comfortable doing it anymore. So we said no because it wasn't going to do anything for anybody but them. It was going to put these people. It was asking these people to buy more things than they needed, so that this couple could get a bigger paycheck, right? And after a somewhat heated conversation, we were convinced to do it. But the next morning, I woke up and I was just kind of like, what? Essentially, like, what am I a part of? Like, what is this? Like like last night made no sense. It didn't benefit anybody but them. It hurt more people than anything financially. So I just kind of was like, maybe it's time to start really looking at what this is. And I spent the next 8 hours listening to podcasts like this one and finding books online to read that ex reps had written, and YouTube interviews, and I mean, you name Reddit threads. I mean, I spent 8 hours just combing through, digging through, binging all of the content that I possibly could on what cults are, for one, realistically, because I thought I knew and I definitely didn't, and what Amway is. And after 8 hours, I was like a little pissed off because I realized I got right, but I was also done. And that night, I brought a lot of info. I brought all of it, all of the highlights, if you will. I brought it to my wife. I said, "Hey, check this out. This is kind of what we're a part of." And she was like, "Well, shit, that's gross. I guess we're done, huh?" And that was that.
So in the cult world, in the religious cult world, you would you have a couple choices. You could just pack your bags and walk away, or you would
Mm-hmm.
go to the bishop or whatever and say, I'm no longer in, or you have to get disfellowshipped because you were baptized, whatever, all that stuff. In here, how do you quit? Can you
Yeah.
just quit? Can you just call somebody up and go, we're done? Or do you have to go through a process?
No, so theoretically, you could just stop.
Quit.
I mean, but theoretically, you could just not no more phone. Just stop. You just don't
Right.
go anymore. Now, for somebody who is at a level that we were at, see, this is where the it gets into a gray area, right? So we had roughly 40-ish, 30, 40-ish people that were in our downline and on our team at the time. And we did actually, we didn't just look at these people as numbers on a board or something. Like, we actually cared about these people. We considered they're a lot of them are still our friends today. And so we didn't feel like we couldn't just stop. We couldn't just blow everybody off, no show, ignore their phone calls, and just, sail off into the sun or ride off into the sunset. So we hatched this plan, if you will. It was a lot more complex and a lot more, just more than it needed to be. But at the time, it was difficult. I'm sure you've heard from people many times that leaving a cult is a really weird process to go through, no matter what the process is, especially mentally, because just coming to the realization that you're a part of one is a huge
There's,
whack.
there's a deconstruction process.
Correct.
First of all, the whole process of realizing that you're in it, and then,
Yep.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
And then, of
Exactly.
course,
So
with the MLM, you have, I mean, like cults too, but even more so, you have the sunk cost fallacy that, like Dr. Ray was talking about
yeah,
on one of our episodes just a couple of weeks ago, that you've already invested so much time and money into this.
Yep.
It's you really have to detach yourself from that and cut your losses, so to speak.
yes, correct. And that's something that keeps a lot of people in. I don't want to sound like, oh, I'm above that, because that's not what I'm saying. But that had no. Once I realized what it was, there was no. I was like I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation. Like, I was a very, you can't tell me what to do. I mean, I was just. Once I realized what I was a part of, it was very easy for me to be like, yeah, we're figuring out a way. We're done. Like, this is not. There was no.
So how do you
no-
deal with the 40 people below you?
Right. So we made an agreement to stick it out for, I believe it was another month, maybe till the next major conference, major event, as to soften the blow. We weren't trying to make it as soft as possible for everybody involved. And that may sound trivial right now, but at the time, just doing it right before a major event would have caused a lot of chaos for a lot of people. And so we just put it on hold. And so we didn't continue to do Amway for that month. We just kind of, fronted like we were still, all in, if you will. And so after that major event, our plan was to sit down with a small handfuls of people, 1 to 5 people at a time, depending on who they were and how they knew each other and stuff, and basically say, not necessarily, hey, get out with us, but hey, we're getting out of this and here's why, and kind of present them the information that I had.
And let them make their own decision.
Correct. Yes, correct. And it started out that way, but as I'm sure you're familiar with having your own cult podcast, cult members like to kind of tell on other members if they're trying to leave.
Mhm.
And so one of the first few people that we sat down with went and ran to, higher ups, if you will, about what we were doing. And it turned into this weird, messy situation that it did need to turn into, where they being the people who got us started in business, tried to call everybody before we did, and invited them over to their big, $1 million home, and said, hey, Kyle, and my wife's name is Carly. Kyle and Carly are like, they're something about like being the devil's gotten to them, and they're going through some stuff, and blah blah blah, and tried to kind of sow these seeds of doubt, if you will, and ruin our credibility before we got a chance to talk to them. So turned into this weird, chaotic thing. But ultimately, about half the people that were a part of our organization did leave with us. And, I feel the need to say this part because it is vindication, if you will. The guy, so there was a couple who got my wife and I started, and the guy, he would always tell people, there was a couple hundred people on their team and their organization, and he would always tell people that I was the most coachable person on his team. I was the most competent person on his team. I had the most competent people on my team. I was the golden child, if you will. And that's not to brag. There's an important reason I say that, because that night when they tried to get everybody over to their house, one of the things he said really was counterproductive and was what pushed a bunch of people out with us. And he basically said something to the extent of, well, Kyle's never really been that coachable, and he's never done things the way he was supposed to do. And so, it's probably for your benefit that he's out. And so a lot of the guys that were kind of like, yesterday you were just saying he was the smartest guy, or whatever, right?
Right.
Right.
And so they were kind of like, okay, this makes sense. Like, you're just trying to ruin his credibility. We're out.
Well, that
So
had
was
to
it
help
that
clear
easy?
your conscience a little bit, to know that some of the people you brought in, you were also able to pull out with you.
Oh gosh, it was great. I mean, yes, it was great. Like I said, a lot of those guys and girls we're still close with today. It's been 2 years. One of my buddies, two of them now. Another person just kind of a couple of months ago got out and reached out to me and said, "Hey, you were right, and I'm sorry." Basically, he thanks me all the time. But another one of my buddies who got out with us from the jump, he makes a lot of money at his job now. He got a new job and transitioned, and he's making a really decent income. And he thanks us all the time. Like, it's not a job he would have taken had he still been in Amway, right?
Yeah.
And there's
Right.
just lots of people that are having a better life because of not being a part of it. So yes, to answer your question, it felt and feels great that
So how many years ago did you leave?
2 years ago in May, so
Okay. And what are you doing today?
20 months ago. As far as work,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm a data analyst at a big packaging distributor, and my wife's always been a nurse. She was a nurse even when we were in Amway.
And you are happy?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Kids?
much so. We talk about it still. There's probably not a week at least goes by where one of us doesn't say to the other, "Wow, life is so good now. Life is so much better now. We're so much happier. We got a new home. We have our first child on the way.
There
He'll
you
be
go.
here in a couple of months.
Good.
My income has skyrocketed because of what I've been able to actually focus on after being in Amway. I mean, it's just everything is in a better position, and we are in a better place significantly since we left.
So, Andrew, since your question's not relevant, I might let you ask
No,
my
I'm
typical
just thinking
question.
about that.
So, I actually am going to ask you, looking back, what red flags do you wish that you had recognized sooner?
Ugh. A lot. I actually, and this is not necessarily to self plug or anything, but I wrote a book about my experience last year, and I actually have an entire chapter dedicated to this question. The things that I noticed and willfully ignored for whatever reason, right? And let me think for a second. The first one that stands out is the what I mentioned already, right? The fact that these people are, quote, free from their job, but they're working all the time. Like they promote this freedom ideal and this lifestyle of not having to work, yet they're working just as much as somebody with a full-time job.
Right.
Or the fact that just like in cults, MLMs, Amway, all of them have leaders that people idolize and borderline worship and treat as though they're some kind of deity. I never really bought into that, but I also kept my mouth shut and kind of just went with the flow because that was how things worked, right? So I just kind of accepted it. I would look at it and think like, dude, you're being weird. That's just another human being, but also like that's how everybody operated, so I just
Right.
kind of put up with it, assuming that if that's how you do things, So I ignored that. There's just so many things.
I
Go ahead.
like that. Hey, dude, it's just another human being.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that if you tried that in a cult? And
Yes,
so,
with a cult leader.
um, who was
Yeah.
that? Uncle Bob or Uncle Robert?
Uncle Robert. That's gonna be this actually,
Yeah,
that episode's gonna air this weekend, so yeah. Yeah.
dude, he's just another human being. It actually fits because for somebody to idolize somebody because they speak some wacky stuff about something, whether it's scriptural or biblical, he's just another human being.
Well, and
Exactly.
that's really how they, really do operate like cults, because that kind of mentality is normalized, and so you don't say anything even if
Mhm.
there's something in the back of your mind saying, "This is a little weird," but you ignore it because everyone around you is accepting it, so it's normalized.
If you want me to be totally honest with you, it was something that I thought I might be able to change. So again,
Mm.
because my wife and I reached higher levels of success, there were times, and I'm just calling a spade, there were times where people would kinda treat us way more special than they should have. There's something I mentioned in the book that I really hated, and it was whenever we would be at a meeting of some sort at a restaurant, and one of these people, these higher ups, had like they drank all of their drink. People would really borderline fight over who got to fill the drink up, and I thought it was so disturbing. Like the dude can fill up his own Coke, right? And so I told people so many times that were on our team, like, you saw how that person filled so and so's drink up the other night. Do not ever do something like that for me, or it's going to become your drink. Like I am not.
Right.
It's just
Yeah. It's weird.
again not this.
It's
It's just
weird.
so. It was just so strange the way they treated people. It was just so strange.
Kyle, at the end of every episode, Melody and I each ask a question, and my question just isn't relevant because it's more
Well,
religious.
I say
So,
you ask my
but I do
question, Andrew, because I just asked I think that I'll have that be my final question, and you can do the question I normally do. How about that?
okay, but I do have a question
Okay.
because I think so. There's Amway, and then there's 24 other types of MLMs out there, right? Or even
Uh,
more.
yeah. Oh, there's tons.
Okay,
Yeah.
along comes this little company over the years called Amazon. And they slowly were growing. They sold books, and then they sold Kindles, and then now you can get anything. If
Yeah.
you order it earlier in the day, it'll be there between 11 and 12 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
W w Where do you see Amazon in all of this? And I don't think Amazon's is not an MLM, obviously. It's an ingenious thing, although I think it could be a problem in many years. It's going to be the conglomerate where they're going to control how we get our toilet paper. Where do you see Amazon fitting in this MLM empire, or does it?
Yeah. So I'll say I don't know that I'm educated enough on the business practices to fully know, but my opinion is that it's unrelated. Now, I do agree with you that it nothing you said is invalid. I mean, it's huge, too
Yeah.
big. Got its hand in too many pots. It's going to control too many things. I don't disagree with you on that. But as far as MLM goes, I just don't. There's no relation.
Apples and oranges. Okay. By the way, Amazon just shut down all of their fresh grocery stores nationwide.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. So because they realized they tried to get into it and they lost money on it, they're still going to deliver their Amazon Fresh online. So you can still go online and order your groceries, but they shut the physical stores down and they're going to replace them with Whole Foods, I think is their brand. Anyway, I'm going to do what Melody suggested. I'm going to ask what normally she asks, and then we're going to ask where we can find you online, and then we'll say goodbye. We normally ask at the end of every episode if somebody's listening to this and they think that they're in an MLM, they're going to these meetings and they go in the garage and they're stockpiling makeup or something, and they're going to these meetings and they're being recruited and blah blah blah, and they have the doubt, like you started doubting. What advice would you give to them to how to begin to deconstruct and get out?
Yeah, great question. I've been asked this before, and it's the same answer every time. Just start asking questions,
Okay.
right? And not surface level, like, oh, how do we make money? But I was on a different podcast a couple of days ago, and they asked a similar question, but it was not just MLM, but if I wanted to get somebody out of Amway, what would I say to them? And it's ask, hey, Amway been around forever. How's their revenue been doing the last decade? Because if you don't know, the revenue's been cut in half over the past 10 years. And they're still a huge company. They used to be a $12 billion company. Now they're a $7 billion company. Losing $5 billion is a lot of dollars to lose.
A lot of dollars. Yeah.
Why have they lost so much money? You can ask questions like, hey, so who makes money off of us buying books? And why do they make money?
And I'll reverse the question. If somebody approached me or somebody who's listening and said, hey, I got a proposition for you, what should they do when they go Google Amway? Should they Google Amway MLM or so to prevent them? So we don't want them
prevent
joined.
them from getting recruited.
Correct.
Yeah, if you want my honest truth on the Google thing, not that they won't find stuff, because they will, but Amway and their leaders are very good at making people think that Google is not a valid way to do any kind of research.
Of course. Yeah.
So I would actually, to be honest with you, I would send them to social media, Instagram or TikTok, and just say, search the company there. Because of course, especially if they're younger people, they're gonna to know how to vet information better on there anyway. Yeah. And there's and that's not a plug because I'm on TikTok. There's tons of people on.
Yeah. And
Instagram
Amway
and
has
TikTok.
enough money to scrape the internet of all the bad reviews. Any organization that wants to look good on the internet, all you got to do is spend a couple $1 million and they can take down the negative reviews and negative posts and blah, blah, blah. Wow, Kyle, what a...
yes.
Just another... I just can't believe this stuff goes on and nobody, and our law enforcement isn't doing anything about it. And I know in 1980 they tried, but people are losing their livelihoods or they're not living their potential, like working where they could be working and be happy. And it's just a shame. Tell everybody where we can find you online.
Yeah, I post every day talking about MLMs and cults on TikTok. You can just search my name at Kyle Humiston and it'll pop up.
All right,
Kyle,
Melody, anything else before?
Yes, one more thing. Yeah. Kyle, we don't mind if you plug your book. Can you say the name of your book? And we will actually also put a link to your book in our show notes as well.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. Yeah, my book's titled You're Not Crazy, Waking Up from the MLM Dream. And it's kind of a play on words because they always promote the dream. The dream is to be free and not have a job. So, Yeah, You're Not Crazy, Waking Up from the MLM Dream, paperback and Kindle are available on Amazon. You can search my name or search the title.
I like the beginning of the book, You're Not Crazy, because people call me crazy, but anyway, joke. Kyle, thank you so
Yeah,
much for
Yes.
joining
absolutely.
us today. It was a pleasure.
Yes,
Yeah, thanks
thank
for having
you.
me.
Before we wrap up, and as I'm editing this episode, I want to jump in and clarify something from earlier in the conversation. I asked Kyle a question about Amazon, and listening back, I didn't frame it the way I intended. What I was really getting at is this. We are living in a world now where companies like Amazon, Walmart, and Target have completely changed how people buy products. You can almost get anything cheaper, faster, and with zero friction, same day delivery, easy returns, and endless options. So it raises a serious question. Why would anyone choose to buy those same types of products through an MLM like Amway, often at a higher price, with more effort, and through a distribution model that relies on recruitment? Kyle pointed out that Amway continues to lose revenue year after year. And when you look at the bigger picture, it's hard not to ask, are we watching the slow collapse of the MLM model? Because when convenience, price, and access win every time, it's hard to see how this model survives long term. Just something to think about.
And once again, we want to thank Kyle so much for coming on the show, educating us, and sharing his story with our audience. And I was thinking, though I didn't say it because it went too fast, and I like to just put this in there because when he was talking about how he stayed for that extra month and he was kind of pretending that he was still in to help the people in his downline, I wanted to say, "Oh, you were Pimo," because
Timo.
really
Yep.
he was Pimo. And I
Yep.
was like, I know it's not fully the same because it's not a religious cult, but really it is a cult. It is a cult. It's just a different kind of cult. It's the MLM cult.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm glad that we brought MLMs on board.
Agreed.
Yeah. This is the second or third one we've done, I
I
think.
think the
You
second.
would
I don't.
know that.
I thinking only one other. I
Okay.
remember the anti MLM kid.
Oh, the MLO kid, right. I'm gonna bring it back again, and I'm not gonna belabor it, but where's law enforcement? I mean,
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
they brought Bernie Madoff down because I guess there were celebrities involved, and they lost a lot of money. But if this is a $7 billion company, and they are deceiving people, and I just don't understand.
Well,
I can
I am
understand.
hopeful, Andrew, that that will eventually change, and that the more we
What
do podcasts like this and other people bring it to light, the fewer people that are going to get recruited into these MLMs, right?
Okay. When I come to you or a guest and I say, I don't understand how you guys didn't leave or something, and
Right.
and you set me straight. You tell me it's a cult, and
Yep.
and it's indoctrination, and it's brainwashing, and
Yes.
I understand that because sometimes faith and believing at a young, especially if you're born into it.
Well, here's the
um,
thing, and I will tell you, Andrew, I just watched a video and I think I reposted it onto the Cultimatum page of Kyle's where he actually tells people how to deflect those recruitment tactics. So he is putting out there into the universe of
Great.
how to deflect those that when somebody comes up to you, how to shut them down, what questions to ask to get them to shut down. So if you go to Kyle's page, you will find a lot of good, helpful information because he does
Okay.
tell you how to shut down that recruitment process.
I have so much more to say about this, but I think I think we're going to leave it there. Yeah.
So, yeah,
Okay.
and
Go
so
ahead.
once again, yeah, we just want to thank Kyle for coming on the show and sharing that with us. And definitely go to his TikTok, check out some of his other videos because he
I
does
will.
have a lot of helpful information on there. As always, thank you for listening to Cultimatum. We truly appreciate your support as we work to expose the truth and highlight the voices of these survivors.
If you're enjoying the show, please take a moment to rate and review us on Apple and Spotify. It helps more people discover the podcast, creating a greater awareness. And don't forget to follow, share, and keep tuning in to our latest episodes.
You can also follow Cultimatum on Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and YouTube for extra content and updates.
And be sure to join our Facebook community, Cultimatum Podcast, where we continue the conversations and keep you posted when new episodes drop.
And if you're a cult survivor looking for additional support and connection, we invite you to join the Facebook group Cult Escape and Healing.
You can also find more information about the show, including our full legal disclaimer, on our websites at cultimatumpodcast.com or anonymousandrewpodcaststudios.com.
And if you have a story related to cults or human trafficking that you'd like to share, you can reach us at cultimatumpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you'd like to support the show, you can do that by using the link in the show notes called Buy Us a Cup of Coffee. Your support helps cover production costs and allows us to keep bringing these important stories to light.
And as always, stay safe, stay informed, and remember, you are not alone.